All right, completely off topic here, but have you ever noticed that when you're watching RTV or whatever and you're watching Chris Roberts talk, it's almost like he's doing a spell casting animation? Ah, capital ships. A frequent topic of discussion. Now, when you look at a ship in Star Citizen, let's talk about commercial ships first because it's important to cut a dividing line between commercial and military because there are different expectations around both. Now, certainly a caterpillar. You expect the caterpillar when it's used for its civilian purpose to be run at a profit. Absolutely 100%. Otherwise, why would it exist in the universe if people just drove themselves into the poorhouse flying their ship? It wouldn't exist, right? An Orion, a reclaimer. Of course, these ships have to make money. Otherwise, they simply wouldn't exist, right? Nobody would go out and buy a ship knowing that it would just run them into the ground. No one would buy a commercial ship that everyone knows would ultimately lose you money. It simply couldn't function within the Star Citizen universe, right? But we are talking about commercial ships. We are talking about ships flown strictly for commercial profit. To say that you would operate them at a loss is completely nonsensical. It wouldn't make sense in the game, and it wouldn't make sense at all. Period. It would be such a non-starter of a position to argue from that it's just stupid. Now, military ships become a different question, and there are certain arguments for and against. Now, certainly the EVE Online model of capital ships, and we're talking about dreadnoughts, carriers, and things like that. Those serve a military purpose. They are not ships that directly generate profit. No, there are situations with certain configurations. I remember back in the day, you could take carriers and certain other things into level 4 complexes at one point and use them in there to generate money. I'm not sure if that's still a thing, 'cause keep in mind that was like, God, a decade ago when I was playing. So, yeah. But in general, these are used as a ship that enables you to, say, conquer certain areas, open up certain moons to mining and refining, which allow you to make money. They're a vehicle that gets you to that point, that allows you to start making money, but they are not ships that are designed to be directly profitable unto themselves, right? If you use that kind of model of thinking, the EVE Online model, then yeah, capital ships shouldn't be directly profitable. But the question is Star Citizen going to go in that direction? Now, the answer to that is still something that is up in the air to a certain degree. Now, as we know, strictly speaking, the Hammerhead is not a capital ship, right? We know that. It is just under the borderline. If you look at the Corvette as the basement of the capital ships, then the Hammerhead is, once again, smaller than a Corvette, so it is not strictly speaking a capital ship. We also know that there are going to be missions coming in 3.3 at CitizenCon, not the end of September, that are going to be designed around the Hammerhead, right? This is something that is confirmed. This is something that we have been told, that there are going to be missions designed around the level of difficulty that are designed around a level of difficulty that would require a Hammerhead or other assets used in conjunction could complete them, but they are designed around the idea of someone using a Hammerhead to complete those missions, right? We know that. Now, how many people expect that mission giver is going to say to you, by the way, you're going to lose 2,000 UEC doing this mission? How many people expect that? How many people expect that that's going to be the outcome? You are going to complete this mission, but you are going to complete it at a loss. Or you're going to earn such an amount of credits that it would easily just be better for you to run cargo in a Caterpillar, or do lower level missions in a Redeemer, or a Vanguard. You don't really expect that, do you? You expect it to be profitable. I mean, you think about the ship. We know we're getting wear and tear. You know, we have fuel, we have repair to a certain degree, though I think that those are heavily deflated right now. Those are going to become significant expenses. I mean, even if you were to look at, say, the Revenant ballistic cannon, the size 4, that thing runs about 17 grand per gun. Let's say you wanted to do a full gun swap out on your Hammerhead. That's 408,000 credits. Roughly. I mean, there's a few extra nickels and dimes in there because I think it's like 17,400 per gun, but you get the idea. So there's a significant, living expense to operating that ship, and that is going to be something that's going to have to be factored into the missions. Now, that doesn't mean that one mission should award you 90,000 credits or 40,000 credits or even 30,000 credits. But you have to get to a point where your profit per hour allows you to operate that ship. And I mean, you're also going to want to have that ship be in a position where you can bring other players onto that ship and allow them to play with you. And they're probably going to expect to be compensated at a pretty decent rate. Not something exorbitant like, oh, I'm going to make, 30, 40, 50,000 an hour, but certainly at a rate where it would be enticing for them to join up on that larger ship and earn some credits, right? Those are things that you kind of have to figure or factor into the expectation of operating that ship as a mission running ship, as we now know it is going to be. It is going to be a ship that is going to have missions designed around it. You can't really operate at a loss, and you can't really operate in a kind of half and half situation where it's almost profitable but not quite, because that's not really going to be something that's going to make the ship enjoyable. I mean, most players will just say, well, I can go out and make more money in a Caterpillar. Why am I flying a Hammerhead in the first place? What good are the missions if they're not really getting me where I want to go? Now, obviously there are people out there, and whether it's a large camp or a small camp, it's really hard to tell. Let's just say it's a vocal camp who want capital ships to be operated at a bit of a loss. They want them to be an expenditure, because they're basically afraid that if capital ships can be operated at a profit, then everyone's going to be rolling around in capital ships kicking ass, right? That's the scenario that they're afraid of. But let's play this out. Let's look at this a little bit more in depth and not just go like, oh, well, this is the easy answer. Think about how that plays out in game. Think about a hull C. What's the cargo of a hull C going to be worth? It varies, right? It varies, but could you easily see a hull C carrying 100,000 credits worth of cargo? Yeah, I could see that. Do you think, depending on what they buy, where they buy it, and how much they bought, do you see it going up to possibly like 1 million UEC worth, or some type of equivalent as the economy shakes out and we start to get final numbers? Do you see a hull C's cargo being enormously valuable? Let's put it that way. Yeah, potentially very valuable, right? Now let me ask you something. Do you think a Hammerhead could take down a hull C? Do you think a Hammerhead could disable a hull C? I think that's a reasonable outcome. I think that's a reasonable, expectable outcome, right? A group of pirates working together, let's say they have a Hammerhead and they have a few Caterpillars running together. Maybe they got a Herald to block distress transmissions. It's one of the features of the Herald, is its ability to jam those transmissions. That has been written in. Whether it's going to manifest itself, still up in the air, but that is something that was written about the Herald, is it could block distress transmissions, it could jam. So think about this. Now all of a sudden you got a Hammerhead out there that's taking down hugely valuable cargo ships. You got Caterpillars, you got all that, and pirates are now able to operate something like let's say a Hammerhead at a profit. It's easily a viable scenario that something like that could happen, unless the expenditure of maintaining that Hammerhead were ridiculously prohibitive. But realistically, do you see that situation? I don't think so. So now all of a sudden you got pirates out there in Hammerheads taking down cargo ships, And then so-and-so says, oh yeah, well, I just bring my Idris. Well, think about the travel time, you know. Think about, well, you won't have to make as many fuel stops with an Idris, but even, let's say, Crusader to Hurston. On the version that we've seen so far, that's an 8-minute flight. Think about that, 8 minutes. When are you being alerted to this thing going on? Are you even being alerted? Are you finding it out? Or are you finding it out over Discord? You don't know. Where exactly is it happening? But the pirates are in there. They've got, you know, they've attacked. They're taking that cargo. They're getting away with it. And now so-and-so has got to go get their Idris. Are they even at the location where their Idris is stored? Are they even at a station where they can pull their Idris out to go and stop that attack? They might have to go and fly to a certain base that has a large enough landing pad to bring the Idris out. So there's a whole bunch of things working against you to counter that pirate attack. There's a whole bunch of things working against you, and time is the biggest problem. The pirates are going to be very well aware of the fact that they have a limited window to take advantage of this opportunity, and they're going to do it. But the best thing about it is that they really don't have to worry about capital ships being out there all the time, because capital ships just bleed money. You know, everyone thought, oh, this was going to be the safe play. This was going to be the easy play. Make it so that capital ships just bleed money so people can't have them out there all the time. The other side of that is if people can't have them out there all the time, then they're not going to be there when you need them. And all of a sudden, you've given pirates a free hand. Now consider the opposite scenario. Let's say, you're Johnny Space Justice and you're Polaris, and when you're not out there kicking ass and taking names, you're, maybe running a little bit of cargo in your Polaris. Polaris, not exactly a big cargo hold, but maybe it's something that is small in volume, but very high in value. There's going to be cargo out there like that. So that's kind of how you sustain your Polaris, and that's how you build yourself up. You're doing that kind of stuff, or maybe you're out there doing military missions at a profit for the UAE, something like that. All of a sudden your buddy calls for help. Oh my God, I'm under attack by pirates. They got a hammerhead and they got a bunch of caterpillars, and they're going to take all my cargo. Instead of having to go back to a station, get your Polaris, get whatever, and then start to make the trip there, you can just align and go into warp, and help is on the way. Just like that. Kind of makes a little bit more sense, right? Kind of, you start to look at it and you go, oh yeah, right, I would rather have the ships that I want, that I need, be there when I need them. And if I can operate that ship, then I can have it when I need it, and I don't have to go, okay, let me see, I'll get back to the station, park my ship, and then I'll, get my ammo, and then I'll be on my way. Instead of just being like, okay, no problem, I'm on my way, boom, and you're in warp. What makes more sense? Now, let's be honest, I've given kind of an idealized scenario for the pirates as well. Let's say the pirates don't have a hammer. Let's say they have a cutlass. Let's say heralds can only block the distress transmissions of NPCs, but not players. Let's say that that's a thing that emerges in the game. Even then, you're now in a situation where your buddy's being swarmed by a few pirate ships, because, now that they don't have to, all fit into one ship or one big combat ship and a few support ships. Now that they can separate out, you're now getting swarmed by a whole bunch of ships. Maybe they can't take down a hull D or a hull E, but they can still definitely mess up a hull C. And ships of that size are going to have a tough time if they're getting swarmed by cutlasses, buccaneers, and heralds. They're going to be in a real tough spot. And even in that scenario, for you to get your capital and get it there when it matters, time is going to be very much working against you, and you're not going to have a lot of it to dick around and go and get the ship that you want. You want to be able to get into that capital, or you want to even be in that capital and then go and immediately, try to help that person out. That's more the ideal scenario, right? That you can kind of at least get on your way, and hopefully get help there before it's too late. Because remember, I cautioned people about this when I was talking about all those fuel stops. if you say, oh, well, we can bring fighters to stop the pirates, well, yeah, but your fighters are going to have to make how many fuel stops just to get to where help is needed? I mean, how long is that going to take? Think about that. Consider that. So fighters become more of a logistical problem, and the best ship to get there when it's needed is going to be an Idris that can carry fighters, or a Javelin, or a Polaris, something that can show up and turn the tide of battle. But now, some people are proposing this artificial restriction, this idealized restriction, whereby capital ships can only turn up once a player has acquired enough money to afford to operate them for a set amount of time. It doesn't really make sense. But anyways, something to think about. I hope you guys enjoyed the show, and thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.